good evening to all, and especially warm welcome to Dr. Vijayalakshmi Garu for this meeting, our 7th lecture on Silver Jubilee Memorial Lecture of Srimaharshi Research Institute of Vedic Technology. We fondly call it SRIVT. It has started its long journey 25 years back in a small way, mainly to bring the traditional science, the knowledge that was there, heritage knowledge of India, and how it is to link it with the modern science. Because many of the experiments, the materials that we develop and the processes were all known sometime back in our Indian knowledge systems. But over the period, we have forgotten those and we recreate. Like research is always research only. So we recreate again, and we find it is new. But if we still adopt those Indian knowledge systems, maybe we can do it much still better than what we could have done now. So with that objective, Dr. ABS Sastry Garu are trying his best to bring the gap between the traditional knowledge systems and the modern science. So in this journey, he has crossed 25 years, and it is time to re-look back on this time, what we have achieved and what we should go. So to get it popularized and to make more people attention, these memorial lectures were started as a preliminary, because there is a major conference in end of August, so where more discussions will be there. But to start momentum, these lectures were started. Very fortunate to Dr. Vijayalakshmi Garu for taking your time and being with us.
Very good evening to everyone who has joined here. Before getting into the lecture, I would like to formally introduce Dr. Vijayalakshmi ma'am. Dr. Vijayalakshmi Venkatesan is currently the Director of Research at Mova Healthcare LLP, Region Orthosport in Hyderabad since 2021. And previously, she served as Scientist G and HOD of Cell and Molecular Biology at ICMR. She played a key role in establishing stem cell research in NIN in 2004, focusing on the interaction between nutrients and stem cells to tackle non-communicable diseases like obesity, diabetes, and osteoarthritis. Dr. Vijayalakshmi played a key role in establishing stem cell research at NIN, focusing on the interaction between nutrients and stem cell to tackle non-communicable diseases. She has authored over 100 papers in peer-reviewed journals, 6 book chapters, and contributed to the revised recommended dietary allowances published by ICMR in 2020. She is a fellow of the National Academy of Medical Sciences, Asia Pacific Association of Scientific Research, and Telangana Academy of Sciences. Dr. Vijayalakshmi has received several awards, including the Women of Excellence Award from the Indian Achievers Forum in 2023, the Venus International Award of Excellence in Biochemistry and Stem Cell Research in 2023, and Dr. S. N. Acharya Award at the 25th World Congress on Clinical Nutrition in 2022. Additionally, Dr. Vijayalakshmi is actively involved in various biomedical research communities, biomedical research committees, and serves as adjunct faculty in private institutes. In her current role, R&D incubator for musculoskeletal disease and obtained approval for stem cell research in preclinical models. It's also focused on complying with GMP regulatory requirements to scale up biotherapy for subjects engaged in philanthropic activities.
I request Dr. Vijayalakshmi to start her talk.
So, at the outset, let me thank our chairperson of the Srimaharshi Research Institute of Vedic Sciences, B.S. Sastry Garu, Dr. Basava Shankar Garu, Dr. Kuparandi sir, whom I know since 2 decades or more than that, then our RAC chairperson, and Dr. and all the other dignitaries who are with whom I could talk to and also get myself introduced, Dr. Vijaya Kadar madam, and all my young the other youngsters who are also going to participate in the opportunity to present in the Silver Jubilee Memorial Lecture and share the knowledge what we have actually got it from my parent institute, that is from the National Institute of Nutrition, because our work was totally on vitamin B6, and that had led to a very long journey and with lot of innovations. So for today's talk, when Dr. Kripanidhi told me that I have to, get myself, get connected with both modern nutrition and Vedic nutrition, I took it definitely as a personal challenge, because I am not very much into the Asian nutrition, but I did have the opportunity to know that how the ancient nutrition is so closely having an overlap with the good nutrition part of the modern era, and how, as Shastri Garu and the RSC chairperson had rightly told, the gaps what we are actually seeing in the present time, from the previous time, needs to be filled up for better health and the prospects. So with this small background, I would like to go on to my talk. You are what you eat. It is a commonly used phrase in yoga, and I'm sure you all will agree it has got a very powerful meaning, because yoga believes that food not only influences your body in the physical sense, but it is also known directly to influence the emotions and the feelings that one goes through. It can induce bliss or anger, contentment or the restlessness, and thoughts of the sacred or the profane. So the food plays such an important role. It is getting integrated into our system right at the metabolic and at the level of the emotions. The quality of food that we eat literally influences the state of mind and emotions. And the teaching of yoga, although they advocate a vegetarian diet with a special emphasis on food, because it is having a direct bearing on the peace to the body, mind, and spirit. So the concept of food to the Aryans was not simply a means of bodily sustenance. So they didn't believe that food is only to maintain the good nutrition or the energy. But when I went through some of the important aspects of their nutrition, they were relating to the cosmic moral cycle, which was very interesting. Then the Taitwa Upanishad states that from earth sprang the herbs, from herbs we get the food, from food we are sowing the seed, from seed we are getting what is called as the man is born. So man is a conglomeration and consists of the essence of food, and all from the food all the creatures are produced, from food they grow. So they center everything. The fulcrum of the point is everything food. They give lot of importance to that. So the self consists of food, of breath, of mind, of understanding, and of bliss. The Bhagavad Gita states that from food all the creatures come into being. Hence, in the great Aryan cosmic cycle, the eater, the food he eats, and the universe must be in a bliss form. So, before we actually go into the topic of the connectivity between the Asian and the modern nutrition and some of the pitfalls of the modern nutrition, I would like to give a very overview about what we understand by the concept of food. We are not taking food only to maintain for a healthy food or to day-to-day activity. The food contains so many micro and macro components, and which is able to sustain our body, repair the cellular processes, and give us at the molecular level, now more at the epigenetic level, and that is what is able to give us important functional responses to various stimuli for the day-to-day activity. So, when you look at nutrition as a definition, it enhances the quality of life and it is able to prevent disease. So, according to me, you can always coin them as a prophylactic factor for the wellness of health, and it also provides adequate calories because energy is a very part of the day to day activity. So, when you dissect out the food, as I said, it contains what is called as the nutrients. The nutrients, when you look at this pyramid, you will find that this pyramid has got a very broad base, which is considered totally green in color. It is made up of green broccoli. It is having various other spinacs and other combination of vegetables, which is contributing and making the foundation for the fiber content, and other micro and macro, mostly the micronutrient of the food. So as we climb the food pyramid, we find that we read the more colored vegetables or the fruits, which is having lot of flavonoids, terpenes, and other important ingredients, phytochemicals, which play a very important role to fight against the disease, or it enriches or enhances the immune system. And then we come to the legumes, which act as a very important probiotics, which is very important for the gut health, because gut health is considered to be the key event as the or the backbone, second backbone or the second brain of the body. So when we come to the nuts and hems, it is loaded with micronutrients, and especially those micronutrients which are having a lot of stimuli to the brain development. And when you're tapering it, it is coming to more of the medicinal plants, where you look for the medicinal or the nutraceutical implications of the raw food pyramid. So thus you find that there is a platform built in at every step, which enriches with each of its functions as you grow up the ladder. So this is what is the definition of the nutrients and the calories, which is measured in terms of the energy used by the body and the energy supplied by the body of the foods. So just to give, I'm sure all of you know in this audience, our audience, but just to give a glimpse of the idea, we have three major classification of food. One is the energy rich food, which is the major micronutrient, which is complemented with other important like the protein, fiber, mineral, calcium, iron, fat soluble, and proteins and other vitamins, which makes them a capsule of an energy rich food, which is very, very important to have an adequate energy rich food on a day-to-day basis, especially for the adolescents and the sports nutrition people. In addition, you have the bodybuilding foods, which is known that postnatally itself, the child has to get adapted to the bodybuilding foods, which is complemented by the fruits. You are having green gram, the dals, different kinds of dals. As they grow up, the fish, milk, meat, and complemented again with the calcium, vitamin, riboflavin, all the micronutrient and the and the fat soluble vitamins. Then we have the protective foods, as I said, the last two part of the pyramid tree, the raw pyramid tree, which is having a lot of medicinal implications, which is able to fight against the diseases. So all these are contributed by, when I say micronutrients and other essential elements, we have a combination of the water soluble elements C, B12, folic acid, thiamine, vitamin B2, B12, and fat soluble A, K, D, and E. The functions of each becomes a chapter of its own, and one can have the own talk for each of the vitamin. So they have so much of data developed by for each of the vitamin on a meta analysis and on the effect and the deficiency levels. And even in the essential nutrients, the best minerals, which are important component of the metabolic pathways, when you dissect out the pathways, in every pathway you have the support of the important trace elements and the minerals, which enhances the reaction to occur, and and lack of this has got an bearing on the functional responses of the particular pathway. So thus we see that the food and the functions of food consisting of the fat soluble and the others make up what is called as the health, food, nutrition, and the micronutrients. So they are able to have kind of a pyramid which is responsible for our day-to-day activity and for us to go through and successfully without any major disease day-to-day. So the one thing I want to introduce an important concept at this page is fusion and food, a very important concept which is now currently being followed in modern nutrition, and even it has been coined by the Nationalist of Nutrition in 2020. Our director has come out with a a plate for every adults, for every Indian, which I will come to the end of the slide. But it was very fascinating to know that every well-known Indian dish is a product of a long history of invasion and the fusion of different traditions, which is very classic. The food that we Indians have been eating over the millennia steadily evolved both in variety and taste. So there was an R&D being done about the food and the taste that is evolving, and that is how the fusion has been created. And the food habits and the preferences in India, especially of the Indians, occurred in stages. It has taken place in distinct stages over the last 4,000 years, from the Indus Valley days through the Vedic times, and after the influence of Buddhist and Jain and their impact on Dharma Shastras and Artha Shastras of around 3000 BT to Mughals, Europeans, and British. So we end up with a culmination of variety of food, which is known to have a capsulized food requiring or bearing adequate nutrition or nutrient component in that. But unfortunately, there are important components which are retained, but there is some kind of a deviation which I will be touching upon. So when we just go through some of the glimpses of Indus Valley civilization, at the various sites in Mohenjo-daro and in Harappa, very interesting to note that wheat and barley, that is the whole grain food, were found, and they were very familiar with chickpea, which is a very important source of isoflavones and which is having a very powerful anti-cancer activity. They were consuming those foods. Masoor dal, easy digestible and very good protein index, and horse gram and chana. And they were also familiar with fruits like pomegranate, very important for anemic patients, and coconuts and banana, which is rich in potassium and other vitamin B6. So wheat was used to making stew, so or flat bread called the chapatis. So when you compare the modern nutrition with the Indus Valley civilization, we find that there's a lot of overlap in the tradition, as it was pointed out in the early talk of today. Although there are gaps, but there is a kind of similarity or a synonym what is brought between the early time, Asian time with the modern time. The flat metal or the clay plate resembling the modern tawas have been used by the Harappan site, mostly suggesting that baked chapatis were known. And similar to the tandoori roti, what we are using now in various, especially in the northern India, they were using small mud plastered ovens resembling the modern tawas for their food. So they were using the foods very hygienically with all the fulfillment of the micronutrient and the macronutrient, and that was the kind of food that was being projected. So when we come to the Harappan civilization, it was more like an urban civilization. And when we come to the Vedic, it was more agricultural oriented, pastoral, and philosophical, and very keenly to ally forces within and without effect on human equanimity. So they were not giving much importance to the human equanimity and comfort. And the Rig Veda mentions literally neither rice nor wheat, but it mentions only barley. I did not go into further papers on this, but 3-4 papers did mention that they concentrated only on the barley. But when they came to the next Veda, that is the Yajur Veda, it mentions all the three besides panicum cereal, oil seeds, and pulses such as urad dal, masoor dal, moong dal, and also matar. So this was another concept which was having a kind of an overlap with that of the Aryans in the Yajurveda phase. And cattle became an integral part of the Vedic culture, although buffaloes and goat was also rare. And very interestingly, what I liked is similar to Shrikant, what you get a favorite food in Pune. When we go, we don't miss this Shrikant food, which is made up of the strained curds. They were calling it a Shrikarini, and it was being used frequently by them. And crystal sugar and fragrant herbs were used in the buttermilk, and which was widely used and used for the dish called the saga. So, food for the Aryans. So, till the period of Aryans, they were good farmers. They cultivated barley, wheat, rice, melons, and cotton, and kept kept their crops in a central storage facility. They kept cows, pigs, buffalo, and sheep also. They reared, and they lived very close to the rivers because to have an access for the animals to the water, so that that doesn't limit for their growth and for the continuous supply. They ate both vegetarian and non-vegetarian foods. Their major food was product of wheat served with barley or rice along with fish or meat. Vegetarian food, if they say it's a vegetarian food, they strictly excluded animal or fish meat. Unlike when you go to east region in India, the vegetarian food also contains fish, which is part of their dogma, and that is what they call it. But those days it was vegetarian food excluded both animal and fish products, and they were they were following the norms as much of population after coming to, like Buddhists, they were following the norms. So concept of pollution is something I was very impressed upon when I was trying to get more knowledge from the Aryans. Is they were so keen about the hygiene point of view that they were never sipping the tumbler through the mouth. It is still being practiced in some families. That is because they felt that their saliva can contaminate the tumbler and their own water or whatever drink they are taking. So they believed in swallowing and not sipping the food through the tumbler. And whatever they were rinsing, they were never reusing it. They used to throw it out. And in rituals similar to the present time, so there's a lot of connectivity. They were sprinkling water on the after the puja, and they were also sprinkling water on the leaves what they were eating in order to ensure that the leaf is kind of sanitized or is sterile before the food is stored. So I'll just quickly go through the Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and because all these have crystallized out of the Hindu matrix, and the food practices are almost similar. But in Lankavatra Sutra, which is a very important concept in Buddhism, they say that they enjoy taking food out of rice, barley, wheat, mudga, masoor dal, and other grain, and green oil and sesame, along with honey, sugar, fish, eggs, and others, which are full of soul qualities. They say that it doesn't disturb their emotions, but devoid of faults. There is no disturbance, and they were consumed by the Aryans and by the rishis of yore. And monks were advised to eat solid food only between the sunrise and the noon, and nothing between the noon and the sunrise the next day. And this will subdue, because this will be helping them to have a check on their materialistic pleasures and other parameters in order to subdue passion and lead to more spiritual length. Buddha himself favored non-injury and was strongly opposed to ritual sacrifice, yet he permitted his followers occasionally to have non-vegetarian if the killing was unintentional. So Mauryans from 3000 BC, they were mostly vegetarians, though eating was not given up totally, and strong philosophy that animal sacrifices, killing, added to the karma, and hence there was a fear of caution. And the emperor Ashoka also preached vegetarianism, and he did not believe in killing of the animals. So next was a very important phase, very connecting with the Hindus. By 1650, the mother goddess came into prevalence. The cow was worshipped, and Hindus stopped eating beef completely. In the Gupta Empire, they mostly ate vegetables, cereals, fruits, breads, and drank milk. So it was almost like a lot of coincidence, or lot of, you would say, kind of overlapping domain with the some of the present concept of the food that we follow. So what is the philosophy? In Ayurveda, we have sattvic food, rajasic, and tamasic, depending upon the character and the nature, what it has a bearing on the body and the mind. So I'll briefly state that in Bhagavad Gita, in 14 it states that when light, which is wisdom, streams forth from all the doors of the body, it may be understood that the pure clear modality, that is called as the sattva, the pure clear modality is predominant. So the sattva was very, very important because it is able to stimulate alpha waves, which helps in the meditation, which is able to have an overall energy flow in the body through all the seven chakras. And also it is able to have the sadgunas, which is leading to the clarity and equanimity, which is beneficial to the body. So So they were advocating mostly the herbal tea, the ghee, the grains, the fresh vegetables, the honey, the nuts, etc. And in addition, the common spices like coriander, cardamom, cinnamon, they were recommended in the Sattvic diet. So when we come to the Rajasic, it is one step a little more impure, but classically we cannot say impure because that was the quality of the food required for that population. The foods that are bitter, sour, saline, excessively hot, pungent, dry, and burning, and are liked by the Rajasics and are productive of pain, grief, and disease. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, and they are stimulant foods that provoke mental restlessness, and it results in the aggressiveness as compared to the sattvic food, and they promote, and as we went to go through, they are able to activate only below the Manipura chakra, and they cannot go advancement in the higher chakras. That means they are only up to the navel chakras, that is the Manipura chakras. They are not completely beneficial, nor they harmful to the body, and it is not good for the body and mind balance. But nevertheless, when we look at the Rajasic food, they are cooked in excess butter with spices, flavoring agents. Typical example include in with minimum dilution of water, but more of the hot foods. So sattvic foods, when they are further dried, further fried, and further eaten in excess, they are converted into the Rajasic food. So the third category is the tamasic, that is very sedative. As the name goes, it is a sedative food, and that food which is stale, tasteless, putrid, rotten, and impure refuse is the food liked by the tamasics. That means it's a category of people which is stated in 17 of the Bhagavad Gita. And tamasic means having tamaguna. That means very, very kind of a sedative character, which makes them sluggish, slow, less energy flows into their body, and they are sometimes necessary for them because of the physical stress and pain. And sattvic static food stimulate strengthen the two or lower chakras. That means they are not even able to come to the Manipura chakra. They are only in the Moola chakra, and in the other is the Budra chakra. So they are not even able to climb to the second higher level. So tamasic foods enhance dullness, lethargy, depression, generating. They also include food over the last 24 hours. So when I was going through the list of food, the red meat, alcohol, fast food, fried food, frozen food, canned food, refined sugar, immediately it struck to me that how much we are close to the modern nutrition, where the youngsters are preferring, and where the insidious, where the non-communicable diseases are mostly a form of or emulated from the tamasic food. All the foods what is being listed by the tamasics are being eaten by the mostly consumed by the patients or the diseases, identifying them as the NCDs. So this is a brief capsule about the different phases of the nutrition. So let us come to what is the most common disease in India and the percentage. This is 2017's GBD statistics. Very interestingly, nutritional deficiencies contribute for 46% of the diseases. Very, very alarming. And the remaining other percentage are contributed by the infectious disease, the tuberculosis, and the other is the respiratory diseases, diarrhea, hepatitis, CVD, and etc. etc. But 46% is something which we cannot ignore and which need to be really taken into account. So what are the fundamental questions? The fundamental questions are: does the nutrient affect the developmental process? Does it have an impact on behavior? And how close is the linkage? What is the role of each nutrient and for each period of time of development? Is the effect of nutrient like a pharma drug? Is it only a transient, or is it having a long-term effect, a chronic effect? And I would like to tell you that these most of the answer questions are answered because there are extensive studies at the R&D level as well as at the human level to show that the nutrients play a very, very key role during the developmental process. So this has been understood that during the development, it has been known that vitamin B6 has got, which we are taking from almonds, which we take from spinach, which we take from the colored vegetables and fruits. They all have an important development impact on the brain development as well as the pancreatic development. So studies show that people with less vitamin B6, they are more having propensity or a more approach or a more morbid for becoming diabetic or an obese patient. Similarly, patients with less iron, they are going to be demonstrating classic anemic features postnatally if they are not corrected in the early prenatal conditions. So if you look at this stress, is a prenatal phase. This is a stress phase where the mother is actually under the micronutrient and the macronutrient stress. And because of this stress, there are obstetric diseases. I will not go into the detail because of the time frame, but nevertheless, it has an important effect on the heart, brain, and liver. Primary targets, and secondary targets are on the vascularization and the secondary vascular on the brain as well as on the muscle striatas, because of which the muscle mass becomes very, very less. I would like to bring one important point here, that when you compare an Indian baby with a Western baby, for the same gestation age, for the same weight, you will find that the muscle mass is much higher in the Western baby as compared to the Indian child. So it can be a genetic factor or it could be attributed to the diet. So the post consequences are the cardiovascular, the neurological, and the metabolic. So when we come to the next slide, this is the data published by National Institute of Nutrition. We have the malnutrition problem when there is a maternal stress and the child is born. The child is either marasmus or kwashiorkor, depending upon the protein energy nutrition or the calorie energy nutrition. So depending on that, they can be the marasmus or kwashiorkor. They can be anemic, and they can also be iodine deficiency. And it is interesting to know that 3 out of 4 children in India are anemic. And to prevent anemic, what the mother has to take is the vitamin C rich foods. She has to take adequate spinach. She has to take adequate monitoring of the blood in order to show that she is not coming out of the anemia. And other important note is the National Family Health Survey 2 and 3 clearly shows that the stunting of the child is very, very high, and underweight and wastage of the diseases is very high, which leads to the mortality and morbidity of the population. And even anemia is very, very severe as per the survey. This is published in 2019. So in modern times, so we are now coming into the modern times, more with adolescents. There has been a transition from a healthy to a non-healthy diet. As I said, tamasic or rajasic like, as they are increasingly taking the beverages, they are taking the packed food, they are taking refined carbohydrates. Their snacking behavior is very, very bad. They take more of this pouched food. They take ready to eat food, which is very easy to eat. Large increase in edible oil, and most important, which I didn't mention, is less hydration. Instead, they go for Coke, which is actually having a contraindication in their blood pressure, and decreases and in the legumes, vegetables, and consumption of the other important nutrients rich source, there is a decrease. So this has resulted in what is called as, in 2013, there is an important study published in PLOS which says that a hunger index says that in India, the stunting contributes for around 20 to 22%, and you also have very large extent of anemia. But more to worry is the micronutrient level as a biomarker is very, very less in the serum. That means they have marked with the retinol, which is a biomarker to show that the anemia is highly prevalent in, especially in the adolescence age group, especially in the girls. the adolescent girls who are going to become the future mothers, the retinol content is very less. So already they are under risk for their anemia. So if you look at this paper, which was published in Lancet in 2020, you will find that urban population is taking less by minus 15 vegetables. And if you go to the fruits, they are taking by minus 80 the fruit content. That means the content of the fruit is very, very less. That means what we advocate in the pyramid chart is not being followed. And when you come to the rural, it is more alarming, although it is the lowest decimale of consumption here, that is minus 25 and minus 98. But the rich households in India, survey shows they are also not able to consume, or not be able to. They are not consuming the right kind of food, but they are more into the the packaged food or the other alternative foods, and not working on the normal food. So, in order to bring about and bring awareness to the public, in 2020, along with 2021, I contributed for the vitamin B6 content and what should be the recommended dietary allowance. It's a very, very informative book where 2021 we brought out for all the energy, micro and micronutrients. And this book, in case you are able to get it from the NIN library, it will be like a Bible, especially for the micronutrient analysis, in order to help the several programs that are being undertaken by the government of India. So, what is the post consequences? The post consequences are India is now facing with a double burden diseases. One is the undernutrition, and that is the communicable diseases, and other is the post nutrition, the transition, which is the non communicable diseases. What I said: obesity, diabetes, hypertension, osteoarthritis. 1 in 3 have been recorded diabetic or obesity, who are going to become diabetic if they are not going to control their glycemic level or the glycosylated hemoglobin level. So the pathophysiology is also very, very alarming, because almost it results in the target organs, leading to the secondary changes in the microvascular complications, and it has become a global issue and a public health issue. And India being the top in the obesity and diabetes, we need to have lot of awareness and public health programs involved in order to reverse these changes. So, if you look at this diagram, you will find that the ape man who was hunting in the jungles has gradually given up his hunting, and he has come to the coke. Because of this kind of a transition, as I said, there is a transition in the change. You find that was very interesting. What I found a couple of days back: Statue of Liberty. Too much of liberty has been given to the statue, and you find that he's having pizza on one hand, the coke on the other hand, and all these are decided by the environmental factors and diet, etc. So this is what is where we stand now. So India is on the top in the NCDs. So men, 1 in 5 men at the age of 37 and above need to be worried about obesity and diabetes, and in women it is 1 in 7 who need to be caring. About 32 and above need to have a very good program in order to have their obesity or the diabetes being reversed. And the red areas all are indicating for men and women the prevalence of diabetes in Indian scenario. So this has been published in Journal of Clinical and Diagnostic Research in 2018. So what happens? What is happening in the body? That is very, very important. A high calorie, a high fat, foods with fructose, low micronutrient, as I said, low intake of fruits and vegetables, they have a direct bearing on the gut. As I said, gut is the second brain of our body. It decreases the gram-positive bacteria in the intestine, impairs intestinal membrane integrity, and it is increasing more of the endotoxin lipopolysaccharide to leak into the blood, resulting in the inflammation. So the gut is becoming as a target because of all these kind of lifestyle modifications, and we are forgotten all our Asian cultures, Asian foods. Nobody remembers, except that maybe who are the youngsters who are hearing to me now may try to get activated. And this inflammation results in insulin resistance, which is an important pathogenesis for obesity and type 2 diabetes. And because of this, you have what is called as the cytokines, which are the Th1 secreted by the thymus cells from the bone marrow. You have the IL-6, the TNF alpha, and all the battery of CRP, all from the secreted by the liver. All the parameters are shooting up. Because of this, you are having the target cell effect. You become fatty liver. Because of the insulin resistance, you get skeletal muscle resistance. You have beta cells exhaustion. There is no adequate insulin secreted, healthy insulin, and the liver also has got increased triglyceride production. So there is also an interesting data which I came across in science. The abdominal obesity is associated with depressed mood, definitely, because all the good hormones are knocked out, and all the bad hormones like epinephrine and good hormones like growth hormone, serotonin are all subdued, and the epinephrine is in its peak. And because of the mood, the abdominal obesity is directly correlating with the high index factor, and depression is actually reversing that. That means you're also having a high index. This factor, the yellow one, is getting reversed. That means the depression is resulting in the abdominal obesity, increase in worse circumstances, sagittal diameter, abdominal, etc. So it is very clearly known that not only the food is influencing the thought process, as I rightly told in the beginning of the talk, and all the great sages have talked about it, and that is having an impact on the obesity. And this is the correlation between the abdominal and the visceral obesity. This is a cohort start, which I've already shown. And what happens, just to give a couple of minutes time, this is the normal structure of the adipose tissue, where you are having the MN cells, the macrophage cells. But you see that the red color, that is the M1, they get recruited more. That means they are the culprits or the inflammatory cells in the adipose tissue, and the same cells get accumulated in the other target organs also. And with increase in adiposity, you have more of the enlargement of the adipose tissue, enlargement of the liver, enlargement of the muscle, and also the cardiac megalopathy or the cardiac block. So all these are result because of the increase in eosinophil content, neutrophil content. So this is a catastrophic event what actually takes place at the obese state. So what is the solution? The solution is the dietary diversity. As we have seen in the Indo-Valley spirit, we have seen in the Buddhism, we have seen in the Harappan civilization, the food diversity is very, very important, because you require a combination of energy-rich food, you require a combination of body-building foods, you require the protective foods, as we have seen in the pyramid table, and they are calculated by various criteria. I will not go into detail, but food diversity is one solution in order to have a kind of a management for this kind of the public health, catastrophic effect. So these are the examples of some of the prebiotic. What we see that very, very simple. What this traditional dietary food include soya beans, inulin sources, and such as Jerusalem antichoke. I mean, raw oats, unrefined wheat, unrefined barley. So which was actually taken during the early period and during the Buddhist period. So these were all called, they are considered to be the prebiotics, and this is what is called as the probiotic. So we need to have a diet modulation with the probiotic, so that you enrich your gut with the right kind of a food, that microbiome, what you call as the microbiome, and that can influence several metabolic pathways to prevent the NCDs and also the neurological impact. So what I want to know is, what I have said is the dietary fusion, which I'll come to that at a later time point, maybe 10 slides from now. But before that, there are other alternative methods where one can have a healing effect on the food and on the body. So spiritual dimension, how are we going to look at the spiritual dimension, health benefits of spirituality, is our body has the power to heal and regenerate. As I was talking to sir, he was also interested in the regenerative medicine. We have a capacity to heal and regenerate among us. For example, the liver, if there is a problem in the liver, it has the capacity to regenerate. That is the gift given to us by the dimension, spiritual dimension. And we can also replicate the original strand by a battery of specific enzymes. Besides, replicating DNA transcribes and translates vital messages to other tissues to messenger molecules. So we have kind of all the entire family is existing within the body to convey, carry forward, and bring out the correct message. So mind and body meet at the level of these messenger molecules. So they transmit to mind and body, which is very, very fascinating to read. And there are more than 1 lakh genes which are not inherited and are called as housekeeping genes in the body, and which is having a miniature reflection of our behavior in general. Very, very important. So these 3 7 chakras, what is there in the body, some people who have the time and who have the passion to have a spiritual bent of mind, they generally remain very calm, very peaceful. They are more healthy, and even their approach to the human to human is also quite different. The factors that promote healing are called tonics. So when we the good factors are called tonics, and the bad factors are called toxins, that what we are actually seeing in the diet. So there is a conflict between tonics, what is inherited by us as a good factor, by the spiritual factor, or by the food factor, and the toxin is what we get from the trans fatty acid, from the saturated fatty acid, what I have listed in the earlier slide. So look at this diagram, very interesting. Tonics was the toxins for healing. So what happens to the tonics? External drugs, you can use tonics as an external drug. Low plant food, vitamins, herbs, these are all called as the tonics. And there is a circulation, there is a theory called yin yang balance theory. One needs to have a balance of the mental and physical approach, proper breathing techniques, pranayams, good circulation, mind and body talk, immune power. You enhance the immunity, and highly emotional IQ. You can improve even your IQ by the tonics factor. But when you come to the toxin, taking the red meat, the trans fatty acid food, the canned food, what happens is you are trying to introduce the external toxins, the pollutants, what the Aryans called as the pollutants. I like that word what they use. The fatty animal food, the pesticide, the herbicides. So this is actually disrupting the imbalances of the yang balance. We are trying to have more pulse rate or more heart rate. When we are having this, it becomes more than 72 or it becomes around 100. Poor circulation, respiratory functions become less, and low immunity, low emotional IQ, published in 2016 in Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And this is a picture kind of a fight between a toning and a toning factor and a toxic factor. The tonic factors try to, like, this is depicted by lemon, brinjal, tomatoes, carrot, and this is given by a free radical, very, very aggressive, and it is trying to hit the other one, but because they are in majority, they are able to knock down the free radical. So the toxin free radical and attack the nucleus, can affect the immune system, which can be prevented at the atomic level by the tonic factors. So this is what is done by meditation and other allied technique to maintain the balance of the serotonin and the mood hormones. So let us talk about what happens. The third factor is the sleep pattern. It is very important, essential in current medical history. The doctor will ask you whether are you having 6 to 7 hours of sleeping pattern. This sleeping pattern is attributed by a number of factors: going to bed very late, watching movies in the night, late night movies, reading habits, reading bad, not good books, not spiritual books. Any book you should not read beyond 10 o'clock or 11, because it can cause using the mobile phone, that can cause lot of ultraviolet effect on the retina, and it can have lot of impact on the ophthalmological diseases. So it has been demonstrated that early to bed, early to rise is the optimal health for a individual, and which is correct, which our great ancestors have been following, and now that is totally disrupted. So some of the important amino acid is like tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid found in proteins, which is present, derived from the serotonin, from the converted to, it's an important component converted to serotonin in the brain. and shown to come down when you fall asleep. And it is obtained from vitamin B6. And if you take vitamin B6 and if you are able to take adequate amount of milk, you can get both tryptophan. From there you will get the serotonin, and you can get a very sound sleep, like this cute puppy what I have depicted is able to have a very sound sleep, that is in the stage 4 of the sleeping cycle. Then the other important proteins like vitamin B12, which is essential for cell growth and replication, supports the brain nerve and brain health. And in addition to that, you are having the anti-stress vitamin is the pantothenic acid. Vitamin B5 is essential for normal physiological function. So you can have the medicinal herbs like ginseng kava, passion flower, the chamomile tea. All this has got important, the phytochemicals present within them, which can be of great help in inducing sleep and maintaining the sleep pattern. So other important micronutrients are what I have listed here: iron, copper, zinc, etc., etc. And also the energy is important, because brain depends on makes energy through adenosine triphosphate, ATP, and hence you require good amount of ATP rich compounds, iron found in the cytochromes that make ATP. So you require the neurotransmitters depend upon the ATP for the transmission of the signals. The myelin sheath depends on the ATP. So you need to take adequate amount of ATP energy compounds. So some of the given brain boosters, for example, the watermelon, the capsicum, the nuts, the vitamin B6, soaked vitamin B6, or you can take lemon and garlic and also lemon, all oranges, all are simple foods we get day to day, seasonal foods you can take to have an optimal amount every day, combination of 2 or combination of 3, to have a good brain boosting effect on the one's health. So the other last concept of my talk is on the nutraceuticals and health. Sir, can I continue?
Please take a few minutes,
Yeah.
2-3 minutes.
Yeah, I will just take few minutes to wind up. So nutraceutical has become a big, market in the pharma company, because Nutra ad shows that it is coined by 2 words: the nutrition as well as pharmaceutical compound. It has got both, as we saw in the pyramid tree. It is having both. So taking ginger every day is a very important component, because it is having gingerol and sugarol. We ourselves have worked with ginger component and demonstrated a reduction in the obesity. Turmeric, everybody knows about the curcumin factor. Garlic, epigalactin, fenugreek, extensive research at NIN. So all these are very, very important. And we have demonstrated that from ginger, we have isolated the 2 important components, the gingerol and sugarol, and they have helped in reduction of the body weight of the animals, the obese animals. And very interestingly, they induced ATP, which is very significant, and they also decreased the white adipose tissue, converted them into the brown like adipose tissue for getting more ATP energy, published in 2021. So recommendations for good health management: leverage agriculture for nutrition. These are the parliament regulations and recommendation which I picked up from NIN 2020. Homestead production of vegetables. They are advocating home gardens, promote urban agriculture, have genetically modified foods at a minimum rate. And Food Security Act of India provides entitlement to cereals and millets at a subsidized, give a subsidized price at 75%, resource poor population, educate people to utilize the saved income of the food pulses, etc. And this was published by our own director of NIN. She made a very good full plate, that is the fusion of food, what I was talking to you earlier. Like, this is the fusion of all kinds of Indian food over a period of time to give a healthy, balanced diet which meets the right calories for the young adolescents as well as for the adults. So these are the changes noted with the adults. Adults also need to take adequate vitamin supplementation in order to prevent fractures of the body, which is published was in 2011. And this is the pyramid for the elderly, slightly different from that of the what I have shown the pyramid earlier. That's why I'm presenting here. You need to take adequate amount of water. Hydration is important. Cereals and tubers you need to take, fruits 2 portions instead of 4 portions, and milk and yogurt needs to be increased, and you need to increase in calcium, vitamin D, and other supplementation. So this is the daily exercises, etc. are very, very important. Gym, playing, everything is very, very important. Eat regular meals for all the age group. Drink plenty of water and limit alcohol and caffeine. And this is the dietary guidelines published by NIN. Eat a variety of foods. Maintain ideal body weight. The BMI has to be maintained between 22 to 25, optimal BMI for a given height. Exercise regularly at least 40 to 45 minutes. Avoid too much of fat and cholesterol. Eat plenty of starch and fiber rich foods. Avoid too much of sugar, especially the refined sugar carbohydrate. Restrict excess salt. And this is the kind recommendation of the diet. And Mother Nature prepares the best food for the human body. Unfortunately, we are interfering with the Mother Nature, cutting trees, we are spoiling the climatic changes and inducing more and more trauma to ourselves. And it is our choice to select the right food. Mother is giving, we are not selecting the right food. Be natural, eat simple, eat the commonly man's diet, and avoid packaged, sweetened, canned foods that may taste good but are the thieves that rob us of our natural, vibrant health. So I'm done. Last 2 slides. I'm not, if permit me, I'll just recommendation for our future research in the nutritional feed. It is current and precise estimate what to eat, and also the physiological adaptation, how much energy is required, what is the energy, protein, fat requirement, content of zinc and iron bioavailability, vitamin D, and epigenetic changes. That means you need to concentrate more on nutrogenomics to understand the personalized nutrition development. And this is my last thank you slide. Plants, plant seeds of happiness, hope, success, and love. It will come back to you in abundance. So when you plant, you will find it comes back to you. And this is the law of nature, and it was shown by, said by Swami. And he says, your life is your message. I thank you all for the patient hearing, and I'm ready for answering any of the questions to my capacity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi Venkateshan Garu. You have really highlighted. Let us all appreciate her very informative and very effective talk she has given today. Particularly, I focus on the line captured from her talk that food is influencing the thought process. I think that is the very essence,
Yes, sir.
and that way India having the traditional food systems for better health, and we have a great platform to take to this to the international fora and to showcase how the food is influencing the thought process. This itself is a very big subject, a lot work to do, but then we from India are very advantageous position. So that is what it does. And second factor I would like to quote is the dietary diversity. Dietary diversity is very much there, and we need a lot of focus
Yes, sir.
to educate our people how the diversity in dietary aspect is required from what was in the past to what is we are having now. I think there is a great effect we should take. Just for a short of time, I recapture these 2 points from our talk, but most of our slides, whatever she presented, 75% from beginning to end, that first 75% is very much focused to our theorem, our subject, like our traditional food and the current food, how difference it is making, and where we should take decision to go back to the
Yeah.
system. And that is where I fully appreciate. And the last portion of our talk was definitely recommendations, which are very much maybe many of you are maybe knowing. But then the first part is very much required to take forward. I request Dr. Sastry Garu to take this subject also into our institutional forum that to take forward. And with this brief, I now request Dr. Krupanidhi Garu to take over to the question answer session and
Thank,
coordinate.
thank you, PG Rao sir. So, Madam, it is very nice to hear you and wonderful talk you have given. We are privileged to be the seventh speaker of our Silver Jubilee celebrations
Thank you, sir.
and very nicely elucidated, particularly Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic foods, and how Tamasic foods are what is it called, causing ill health in
Yes,
the modern
exactly.
food. All those things you neatly explained. And apart from that, you also indicated the molecular biology aspects.
Yes.
So where the inflammation, how the gut is
Yeah.
the second brain of the body is getting affected.
Yeah.
All those things you neatly elucidated, madam. And now may I request Dr. Swaroop sir to ask a few questions.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful talk.
Thank
Mine
you,
is
sir.
a more layman kind of a question with two young kids in my home. It's more of a personal question.
Okay, sir.
Uh,
Please tell me.
because we were trying our best to give them our old kind of foods like vegetables or be it fruits and all. But what I have observed with many of kids of my kids' age is that they are not relishing fruits, or it is very hard to convince them to eat normal kind of foods. So we keep searching for different alternatives. Schooling days, we always learned about balanced diet. But in those days, our mothers used to prepare multiple meals.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, multiple items in the meals. Nowadays, with small families, we are only making one or two dishes. What are your suggestions for kids?
Kids, thank you, sir, for your question. Uh, Kids are very difficult to handle in the present generation. I agree with you. They will not go with the very conventional food what we are going to recommend. But at the same time, what we can try to achieve at is make them understand. Also to some extent we need to educate the children, because that is what we found in one of the classroom talks. We need to educate the child also, that if you take this you are not going to fall sick like your grandmother or your grandfather, so you need to take this. So, and also you try to have, for example, an spinach you have, so you can increase the bioavailability of the food by taking either some vitamin C rich food along with that. So what you need is, taking food is only not important. We need to have the bioavailability of the food also for the children. You have to enhance the bioavailability of the food by taking the right combination of fruits and food is also very very important, sir. So what I am advising you is, you can directly go to NIN website, and they have very good publications relating to the bioavailability of foods, and what foods to take with what for food for adolescents, food for children, food for infants, food for elderly. So they are giving a combination of all the foods. I think if you refer that, you'll get more detailed and varieties also, diversity of food you will get from the books, sir.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks.
Thank you,
Okay,
madam.
thank
So,
you.
madam, one more question is recommendation of using millets.
Yes, sir.
Nowadays being spoken at
Yeah,
length, madam.
yeah,
Is
whole
it
grain.
hype or fact? Is it hype or fact, madam? Question
Uh,
from.
sir, incidentally, I am in the committee of, Central Committee of Millet Research in CFTRI. So we had a kind of discussion on this. So instead of taking 100% millet, if you are taking a combination of 70% millet with 30% of rice or 30% of added to the wheat, the absorption is better, and even the nutritive value is increased
Yes.
than taking the total millet which is consumed.
Thank you, madam. Dr. Vijay, madam.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Vijayalakshmi, you
Yeah,
spoke very well, connecting the Vedic to the traditional thing. I know because of this, especially nowadays, the lifestyle disorders, everything we are getting because of our dietary, what we can say, we forgotten traditional diets and
yeah,
ethnic diets. Now we have to come back and really give the importance and create a lot of awareness. I'm really happy the way you have really interconnected, and what we eat is really depending upon it really projects our health. And more nowadays, the exercise, physical activity at every stage,
exactly,
starting from the school level to the corporate level, we are
exactly. Yeah.
missing that one. That we have to really talk about it.
Yes,
A
yeah,
simple balance I'll give you: intake minus output is equal to zero. If you really practice this simple formula, I'm sure you will be very, very healthy with all the things. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to listen to you after a long time.
Same here, madam. Same here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay madam. Now, 2 or 3 questions from our director, Sastry garu madam.
Yeah.
Is Sapta Dhatu regenerate herbal formula can be in our daily food? Can it reduce the diseases problem, madam?
Okay, sir. Can you repeat the question, sir?
Please also see the chart box, madam. Is Sapta Dhatu a regenerative herbal formula?
Okay.
Can be used in our daily food, whether it reduces the diseases problem.
Sir, we need to work out, first of all, is optimal concentrations, how much it can be taken, and what is going to be its target effect, and its bioavailability is, as I already told, it is all the 3 are very, very important. So, based on that, for example, if I'm taking vitamin B6 every day in my diet, it is acting like a prophylactic to my beta cells of pancreas, because we have done a lot of research on that. Similarly, on the Sapta Dhatu, what sir is now advocating, so has the LD levels or the threshold levels been worked out? If it is worked out, and we need to know the efficacy, safety efficacy of the study, and then try to take 1 dose lesser than the safety efficacy on an everyday basis to have a good health on us.
Okay, thank you, madam. One more question, madam. What is the factor that decide the height of a child, madam?
Oh, that depends on multiple factors. One is genetic. Okay, it gets transmitted from the father. The second one is, some of the yoga asanas from Patanjali. I've seen that when my son was actually short for his age, we got some leads doing some tadasana and other exercises, saying that it will grow. The third one is, the most important is, in the hypothalamic region, the hormones what are secreted, they have a very key role to play in the height of the child.
Madam, there's one more question. Good question is, nowadays people are going to remove that fat from the abdomen to the doctors.
Yes.
Removing the fat, will it be having any dangerous effect, madam?
Yes, removing the fat. At the same time, they are trying to shorten their intestine. So because of that, the normal physiological process is curtailed, and we are having a stressed gut microbiome within the person who is going through a bariatric surgery. So it is not advocated, sir. Unless and until the BMI is extraordinarily more than 40, otherwise it is not advocated.
Madam, thank you. Last one, madam. The timing of taking foods, madam, particularly the breakfast, lunch, dinner, is it having any implication on health, madam?
Yes, sir. Especially, you have to have 12 to 14 hours gap between the last meal of the night, dinner, and the next day morning breakfast. You need to have 14 to 15 hours of gap. That will be the breakfast time. And then another 6 hours of gap you need to have for your lunch time. And then you need to have a very small snacking time, and followed by dinner. Close the dinner by 7 o'clock or 7:30. Actually, where there is a dip in your good hormones, that is, the growth hormones are dropped, your insulin is dropped, and your cortisol levels start shooting up by 8:39. So we should not eat during that period of time where the cortisol levels are high. So we need an early breakfast and an early dinner.
Thank you, madam. Thanks a lot for the wonderful session. And it is more than 1 hour, 15, 20 minutes. You continuously handle the session, madam. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed too, sir. Thank you, Sastry Garu, once again.
Thank you, Amma. Thank you. And actually, this Saptadhatu reservation Rasayana, as per Ayurveda, I will, as our RSC chairman, Dr. P.G. Rao suggested, we have done something earlier with the NIPER and other institutes, and this we developed one this Saptadhatu based. We followed the, as you said, the norms and the percentages of the phytochemicals. Highly recommended doses only we used. And also one area I suggest you, if you are interested, and Madam Vijay Khatar also senior nutritionist. If we can work together on the Vaimanika Shastra, there is an Aharadhikaranam is there. Aharadhikaranam. So it's a very important area to explore, because filling the stomach is not food. Food is also medicine. We have to treat food is medicine. Otherwise, we have to take medicines as food. So, in this concept, I have done some extensive research on Aharadhikaranam, that is described in Vaimanika Shastra. It's only football, like food, like goli,
Okay.
which will give the balanced diet, balanced food, which is sufficient to the man for his work and everything. It's not a concept of filling stomach. So all these works can be explored. Really, I need. We are also looking for the good collaborators, and all those things. So let us hope, Amma. Thank you so much, and
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
uh,
It was a great privilege for me to be part of your Silver Jubilee, course of talks.
Thank you. And this final seminar is going to be held in T Hub only in Hyderabad. So that will more details will come later for all of you to take a chance to attend.
So I once again thank Dr. Vijayalakshmi ji for having this wonderful and very much interactive and interesting lecture today. So at this outset, we at SRIVT are trying to bring out such eminent speakers on every Saturday, and we are very very happy that Dr. Vijayalakshmi had spent time with us today, enlightening us on the need of balance in food. That is what is something we have to take out from this lecture going forward.
Thank you all, and I closing the session here. Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhaktu, Sahaviriyam Karavavahi, Tejasvana Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all. God bless you.